becomes the number one product in America. So I want to layer what's going on, because what you're saying is real, but it becomes hard for dudes who are born after 85, because a lot of shit you're talking about, that dudes who grew up in households with moms, we don't, like, a lot of dudes miss a lot of dudes miss a lot of the part where you say, oh, we did this because we lived in a household where we was up under the roof of a woman, so we don't know what you're talking about. You know, we suffer from not having a dad, the same dad you missing, the same dad we missing.
That's what I'm talking about with this young my page right now. It's like, when I say that men don't know how to handle us emotionally, he's like, well, y'all just need to use your discernment. Don't y'all use your intuition for stuff? You just need to learn how to tell a man from a boy. And I'm like, who the fuck taught anybody how to tell a man from a boy? That's ignorant.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. What crack did, essentially, from what I'm looking at, it's just like today. And I want everybody to pay attention. Right now, people are saying, spit in each other's mouths, and that's cool. People who ain't lived long enough to know no fucking better will think nothing, I don't know what you're talking about. Okay, fine.
It's normal.
That's regular. A 15, 16, 14-year-old, they don't know no fucking, and this is, reality is a narrative agreed upon. Enough people agree upon spitting in each other's mouths, that's going to be fucking law. Period.
This is something that, I get frustrated because in our society, when we're talking about grand scale things, people have a tendency to mentally oscillate between micro and macro dynamics.
Yeah.
That's not a way to analyze. That's not a valid form of analysis when you're talking about collective consciousness and what's going on with human evolution. A global perspective says that we're looking at the majority rule, and we're looking at trends. We're looking at the character of a thing. We're not talking about people's individualized experiences.
They get that fucked up.
Yeah. They get the whole thing messed up because they'll start saying, oh, we're talking about, like, for example, if we're talking about how, men are, like I said, and he's like, well, I ain't never been like that. I ain't never seen this. Okay, well, sir, that's you. Who the hell cares what you have personally seen? I'm talking about what the whole of society is experiencing right now on a mass level. Yes, there are always exceptions to every rule, but that does not mean that we don't have to pay attention to the majority.
Let me point this out too. Let me put another crowbar in there. What you're saying? Okay, so there's a difference between what's culturally accepted versus what people are doing. Culturally accepted things are things that are agreed upon, things that the whole will say, yes, this is something that, for instance, the whole will agree upon basketball. You know what I'm saying? Because this is, that's something that we establish as a cultural thing that we do. The whole ain't agreeing on smacking up bitches. Why? Because the whole don't agree on it. Right. Now, the common thought in your common household is going to fall align with these norms that fall in the culture. But if you got damage, that's why I was pointing at the crack. If you got damage, and I don't know about nobody else, but I know my parents' generation, the whole fucking generation got destroyed by crack. The whole fucking generation. The whole generation. If they didn't sell it, they did it. And they all got fucking killed. Period. All of them.
That's the reason why it's very dangerous for us not to acknowledge the origin stories of these things.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Where it came from. Absolutely. All of this stuff is coming from the same place. It's nothing new where this stuff is coming from, but what I want to point out is the fact that all they're doing is presenting us with things. They're just suggesting things to us. And because we're so devoid of substance from our internal source, whatever they give us, they give us these images, they give us these narratives, they give us these social tools, mental tools that are no good, that are destructive. And instead of us, finding the power internally from somewhere to say, you know what, I'm going to go the other direction. I don't want to consume what you're giving me because, like I was saying on my live a few minutes ago, what I consume is tuning me in certain ways, tuning my frequency. Either my consumption of my consumption of what you're giving me is either going to be a low frequency vibration. When I consume it, it's going to tune me to a lower vibration, or it's going to raise me depending on what it is. And that's with any type of consumption, mental, physical consumption, emotional things that we allow to, impact our emotions. And we just really have to get ourselves to a point where we're no longer taking whatever our enemy is giving to us as a suggestive programming, because every time they do that, again, it's usually to attack us from another angle. And so again, I'm going to move back to what I was talking about before, where we saw our men being attacked, and sort of subsequently, just as a side effect, our women had to, kind of realize we were being attacked too. Because when you take our man from us, you take our support, you take our structure, so that definitely an attack on us automatically. So then you have the women, as a result of the man being taken from the home, she's becoming independent. This is an age-old story. It's nothing new. She becomes independent. She's not able to care for her kids. And so now current times, and this is why it's so important for us to understand generational trauma and generational, impact of these attacks on spiritual warfare, is because our children are now at the age where they are now pretty much at adult level. Our kids are reaching the teenage age where they're now having to be in control of their own souls, their own spirits, and their own decisions that they're making. And so they're broken as well as a result. So now they're being attacked. Our children are being attacked now. And, it's going to be up to us at some point, because we're right in the middle. We are by it, but we're also wise enough to see it happening to our kids as well, because it happened to us. And so I'm telling these young girls, y'all are out here thinking that it's your choice. Y'all are out here thinking that this is something that you want to do, but you don't realize that you're being suggested in a certain way. You're being guided and led in a certain way, because you are never taught emotional intelligence from your parents on a large scale. These kids don't have no emotional intelligence from their parents. So now they are being faced with a decision. What am I going to do? Am I going to self-destruct, or am I going to build myself, or am I going to elevate and ascend these things? So if they don't find guidance from somewhere, from those of us who somehow, I don't know how I overcame all those things. I believe it was just divine for me to be able to survive. I was basically left up to my own devices in my life as a child. And so my own internal moral guidance just took me in the direction that it took me, which was, I did a lot of moving around as a child. So I really did read a lot of books. I was okay with not having a TV on all the time. Even if I did have a TV on, I was watching stuff like, moral stuff like Arthur, Doug. I was watching those things. I was watching the news when I was a young girl, especially when I got to high school. When I got up in the morning, I turned the news on. I was doing grown-up stuff. I'd always been mature, so I feel like that was just divine about my character, my personality. But how many other people didn't have that and don't have that? That's not a part of their life. They're just influenced by whatever sways them from their external environment. They don't have any anchoring from their internal environment or their internal, structure. So what I see now is this is another attack. It's happening on our children. And it's just sad to me, because so many of these kids don't have parents that ever grew the fuck up to tell them, you're not listening to Cardi B, not today, and not in my motherfucking house. The mama turning it up like, go baby, twerk it, boo, yeah, get it. And
it's important when we think back in our mind, Facebook days when Facebook was popping in the early single digits. we got to remember that, unfortunately, moms used to just twerk in front of their kids like it wasn't shit.
Somebody said before, I don't understand why we're on the same social media platform with our kids. That's too much.
Yeah. I mean, but the video, you've seen videos where a woman twerking and then the children are in the background. You know what I'm saying? We have the normalization of the trauma. The normalization of the trauma introduced, and the things that we use to get around the trauma. Because we don't deal. Traditionally, people don't deal with trauma. They just get around. They do things to get around it. And these things have reached their capacity. And with people who have children, they were never good answers in the first place. Mm-hmm. They were never good answers in the first. And I feel like, because we keep running, we keep going, all of these things occur and they just mount up. It's just like slavery. We ain't dealt with the shit from slavery. A lot of these behaviors you see, you can find them born on the plantation. A lot of these very same personalities, these attitudes, you can find them on the fucking plantation, even down to the excusing of white people. Because by the time slavery was over, they were talking about them as if they were family. They were not talking about them as if they were people who had been captive for 400 years. They wasn't talking.
Yeah, and I think that's the reason why, again, we have to start remembering that we are a part of a collective consciousness, and everything we do as an individual contributes to that collective consciousness. Plantation mentality, it's difficult to navigate because people trust the system.
Yes.
Regardless of what comes out of it, they still trust it. They still want to be a part of it. They still want to engage. I mean, so like when music gets released and the narrative, the duality of the narrative gets released as well, where people are, basically just like I said, being presented with a choice. Oh, this is liberating, or no, not liberating. So basically, they have to decide: is this liberating to me? Is it not? And that's where the danger comes in, because people don't know what true liberation is. So, of course, they're going to say, oh, it's liberating, because they think liberation means I can do what I want. Mm-hmm. They think liberation means, my body is natural. I can do what I want with it. Men do this all the time. I hate that argument. And, because, of course, two wrongs don't ever make a right. And so it's like, we don't get a chance to step back from the situation and say,
that's an extremely offensive statement, to be quite honest with you. Especially for a man who does not participate in that shit. Like, I told this one broad, I was like, don't you ever mention that shit about white women again. Because I've never fucked a white woman, and I don't even fantasize about it. So, to be quite honest with you, when you bring up what these other niggas do as if I'm not right here talking to you negate my whole fucking existence. When you say all black men do is fuck white women, you negate my whole existence. Mm-hmm. Like, it has to be space. Like, we can't, that's the other thing, we can't have these whole arguments as if everybody is acting in the mentality of the integrationists. That's not true either. You know what I'm saying? It's no point in marginalizing those who don't do these things because, we just stay focusing on this just because it ain't negative. That's crazy. Like, if at whatever point we decide to make the thrust in a direction of anything functional, we're going to do it through these margins of black people who don't get into the fuckery, who don't give a fuck about being able to integrate into these different spaces where whiteness is whole. Like those are the people who are going to be the ones who are the difference makers. So the concept is if these people don't matter. I don't like when people say the pick me women. I hate that shit. What the fuck are you saying?
Well, I mean,
because they like niggas.
What it basically boils down to, we have women who are in touch with their balance of energies.
Yes.
Everyone has a masculine and a feminine. Right. Some women don't have a balance. Some men don't have a balance of their masculine and feminine energies. So where we start seeing those type of women talking about, oh, you just a pick-me. A pick-me is essentially a woman who has a balance. She understands that a man is a man. I mean, there are things that you have to honor and respect about a man. Women who don't respect manhood and don't have a balance of their own masculinity, they put an unfair responsibility on men to have this masculine presence in their lives. And it don't work like that, because we have, all of us, a balance of both and within our own person. And so it's like a trend, I guess, where we're trying to figure out what is masculinity really, because our men have been absent for so long. A lot of us are wondering, men and women, what's going on with masculinity in the Black community, because it has been undefined for such a long time, where not necessarily undefined, but it has been unseen for such a long time, now to the point where it has become undefined. And now we're like, okay, well, how are we going to define it? Because it's about finding the balance between what is and what isn't with our community. Our women, we are emotional creatures. Our men, this is going into the pose that you were talking about. Our women are emotional naturally, and men are logical.
Before you go into that, let me say this. Before you go into that,
I'm gonna forget it.
Okay. Oh shit. Okay.
Because you like long-winded. Let me finish. People, we have this. See, I done lost it.
The post. You were talking about the post and the sisters being sisters emotional.
Yeah, you have women are emotional, men are logic. Okay, but that doesn't mean that women don't have logic. It doesn't mean that men don't have emotion. It simply means that we should connect with each other on the levels of our natural inclination. If my man is a logical person, that don't make me illogical. It means that I need to make sure I can support and I can help him develop the way he builds his logic from the way I build mine. I'm a very logical woman. So if I'm with a logical man, he and I can connect on that level of logic. And that's where I found my peace in life, is through logic, because like I said, for me growing up, I didn't have that masculinity. So I had to get logic, just get it how I live. I had to build my logic just by having a will to do shit that makes sense, instead of me fucking around with my emotions too much. But then we have to look at the feminine element, the feminine principle. She's emotional. So for us, emotional intelligence is also about logic. It's about a balance. So our men who lack emotion, they're leading themselves with logic, and they're no way, shape, or form are they ever concerning themselves with their emotional component. And that's the reason why we don't have any connection, because women can see the logic that men create sometimes, even though a lot of men's logic is very faulty, because they're not being led by emotions when they create their logic. And again, this is about balance. A woman's emotions should be guarded by logic. A man's logic should be softened by his emotions. You understand? So when we come together, that's how we are supposed to fit with each other. It's like a plug. I come to you with my emotional intelligence. You come to me with your logical intelligence. We make those things balance. We have a power. We have a power at that point. But when you have a man that is out of touch with his emotions, he can't connect. So there's no flow of energy. There's no flow of power between the two. If she comes to him, she has no logic. There's no flow of energy. There's no connection. There's no understanding between those two. And this is, I believe, and I can't say I believe, this is what I know has been the agenda of our enemies. They know that they're playing these psychological games with us. And so there's, we have to, again, acknowledge the fact that these things have been designed on a grand scale to impact us very deeply. And we try to trivialize it, like men trivializing women's emotions and saying that it's not logical. Emotions are not meant to be to be logical. Emotions are not meant to be, I should say that again. Emotions are not meant to be logical. They're meant to be felt. You cannot feel information. I should say this. You can't necessarily think about and rationalize emotions all the time. It can't always be rationalized. You have to sometimes just feel your way through it and allow it to impact you the way that emotion impacts you. And that is basically what it means to be emotionally intelligent. You're just being impacted by your feelings and your emotions as they move through you. Did you wrote down your point you were going to make?
Yes, I did. Okay, so one thing I wanted to mention was that when you talk about what are men and what do men do, we go to the basics. 5%ers immediately say build and destroy. And you look at, I always say men do unsavory. Men do the unsavory. But the question becomes, what is a man that can be undermined?
In what way?
In society. A man group that can be undermined has no existence, really. Period. A society that is based off capital. Capital is what allows an idea to become material. Capital is the difference maker from, everything. So when you have men in a society that can be undermined, you getting fucked from backwards. Period. Let's get that straight. So the dysfunction in being a black man is inculcated in your everyday waking the fuck up.
That comes from a lack of development. Our men have been in the streets for so long. They haven't had a desire to elevate themselves.
See, you can't guarantee that. It's vast examples that say different when it says to desire to build. Black men have attempted to build throughout the ages. Destroy is what happens. And for whatever reasons, our community does not take that into, we act like the part where men try to build shit, we act like that didn't happen for whatever reason. I don't know what that's about. But I will say this, when you talk about logic, the average man, the healthy thinking minded man's logic is based in a sequence of outcomes that he thinks he can stand on as concrete. His logic is based in his experience.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean, though. When I say a desire to build, I don't mean in the community. I mean at home.
Well, my thing is, in general, if you can be undermined, that's my point. If you can be undermined in your house, a black man can be undermined. Period. Black man is the most undermined man on the planet. Period. In your home, you can be undermined. In your home, your black woman can have in her mind that prior to meeting her, protection is the police.
Okay, but listen. Being undermined by a woman is a reflection on the man. It's not a reflection on her. Because
it reflects on society.
It reflects on a lot of different things, but I can't say a lot. The main thing I'm thinking about when you talk about a man being undermined, I'm thinking about his leadership, his capacity to lead that woman. Women, well, I'm not even going to say women. I want to talk about life. Life is about self-preservation. I don't care what anybody says on an individual level. You are to preserve your life at all costs. So in this society, when we are being torn apart, literally, if a woman gets with a man who more than likely does not have emotional intelligence, he does not have that ability to connect with her, and he's trying to lead her in a way that, again, they're not connected. If he's trying to lead her somewhere and she's not trying to go that way, she's going to undermine him, because it's up to him to consult with her on an emotional level, to ask her to understand emotionally, what are you wanting as you move through life? Because when we're moving through life together, again, that logic and that emotion balance is required for navigation. That's the reason why relationships are very hard to accomplish and achieve success and happiness inside of the relationship, because you have 4 components that need to be balanced. The male's masculine and feminine principle, and then you have the female's masculine and feminine principle. Those things all 4 of those principles, 2 inside of one and 2 inside of one, they have to balance. That's a lot of shit to balance. If that's not happening, navigation is not successful. Navigation is not successful, but the man being the leader of that, he is the one that has to say, look, our emotions and our logic, because he has both, he has to say, baby, we're going in this direction, but this is, you kind of pulling me in that direction. He's got to come and have the emotional intelligence to say, we have to calibrate our navigational tools, because if it's not working if it's not synthesized, if there's no synchronicity there, you're going to be pulling each other in different opposite directions, and that does not feel good. And most of the time it ends up in despair. It ends up in resentment. It ends up in breakup, because nobody, again, has that balance. And it's required.
You don't think pocket watching affects a relationship or household?
Of course.
So that's what I'm trying to say. It's like, so you got these things. When you talk about even in household, I was more talking about just societal, you know what I'm saying, as overall the collection. But even talking about in a household, a man that's a very thin string to be able to present yourself on. Lose your ability to provide financially. That man shit goes away real quick. It's so many ways that all that go out the window. And like I said before, it's because it's so easy to be fucking undermined.
Ability to provide financially. If a man is discarded because he doesn't have a financial ability, it says 2 things. It says one thing about the woman and what she values, but it also says another thing about the man and what he values inside himself. Because if a man is, relying on financial stability to give him a sense of value, then he's not presenting himself well.
The vast majority do. The vast majority of men think that they inherit their value from what they can go out in the world and get.
No, and
niggas who can't go out in the world and get nothing, they don't feel no value in themselves at all. That's a fact. Because, but that is what is told. When you're a child, you ain't shit until you got some money.
Well, that's debatable. That's debatable. I wouldn't even say that on a grand scale, because some people, I don't know. I'm gonna say it like this: if a man is wise and has his substance intact, what he will realize, if he elevates himself, if he gets in touch with his emotions, if by some kind of miracle he gets in touch with his emotions, then he'll be able to provide substance in that arena. A lot of women need a man to give them that emotional connection, to say, you're validated, you are worthy, I see you, you're special. Those things are very valuable to a woman. I know a woman right now that has been with the guy. I'll never forget this. I had to talk with her because she was financially struggling, but her and her man were together and she was taking care of him. And I said, you know, he's really like dragging your ass for real because he ain't bringing you no money. And she was like, Sharice, I know, but just the way he treats me. She was like, the way she valued him so much, she did not care about the money. It didn't matter to her because he treated her well. I couldn't even argue with that. I couldn't argue with it because I understood. If a man is treating me the way I want to be treated, that's the way I got married. My husband wasn't making a lot of money, but he treated me like a dime, and he was very careful with me. The only reason why we ended up not working out is because he didn't have emotional intelligence. And in my opinion, from what I observed, he wasn't making moves to get that emotional connection with me. He wasn't making moves to tell me that I'm special, how he feels about me. He wasn't giving me that. So I was just like, you know, eventually he did get himself together. He started providing me financially, but it wasn't enough. The financial provision, I know how to make my own money. So I need you to treat me a certain way for that money to even mean anything. So it depends on the person's values. It depends on their own personal appreciation for substance, their own appreciation for feelings and emotions, because that really is your true currency. If I feel good going into the world every day, making money, I could care less what my man doing because I'm feeling good about what I'm doing. Okay.
Right. Okay, so one thing I did want to touch on, you mentioned emotional intelligence. Now, first and foremost, we're all born with blanks. We're all born blank slates.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. So, emotion. First and foremost, let me say this: a man, or I guess I want to say this to brothers, we are capable of doing feminine things as masculine-based beings.
Exactly.
We do feminine things in a masculine way. If your woman fuck herself up, you're catering to her while she's hurt.
That's right.
Those are feminine things. You ain't gotta do them like you ain't gotta sashay and switch your ass like a woman to do it.
Nurturing is a feminine trait, and if a man,
but the act of caring for her in her time of need, that is a feminine act, and there's nothing wrong with that. When we hold our baby,
it's feminine,
to our body to give it more heat, that's a feminine act. But you do it as a man. You don't pose to try to attach the baby to your fucking chest, because you ain't a fucking woman. Masculine things, feminine things in a masculine way. That is a real thing, and you don't have to inherit female traits to do them.
I agree. And
I want brothers to understand that shit, because I want brothers to understand this shit, because a lot of niggas do shit that is noble, but you do it in this feminine accent, which is unfucking necessary. Period. Now, I also wanted to say, touching on what you was talking about when you talk about emotional intelligence. Now, I just said a minute ago, logic. Men build their logic off putting your hand on the stove and it burning your fucking hand. Men build their logic from there.
That's not smart.
Men build their logic from there. So,
not smart.
Emotional, let's put like a healthy minded person. Now, women, because there's some niggas who fall down stairs as babies and they'll never be right. Let's just be honest. Come on, let's just be honest. Anyways, so the feminine conversation is a idealized meaning, or subjective meaning, outside of myself, because when you talk about feelings that you didn't feel, the only way you get into that is through empathy. Being in the moment. So it's like, if she come, don't automatically say, oh, here come this shit. Don't automatically do that. It's probably not going to be good because the look on her face, you can tell it's probably not going to be good. You can tell by the shit she's saying as she's on her way to you. It's probably not going to be good. But in that moment, be in that moment. That's going to extinguish the fire more than all the other shit. Mm-hmm. Being present in that moment when she comes with that emotional distress shit and she's coming like this with 5 heads in. Mm-hmm. Listen. If you on the phone, hey, bro, let me get back at you. If you're on a video game, pause. Mm-hmm. If you're watching a movie, pause.
I can't tell you how many times I have ever come to my husband, my ex-husband, and told him that I wanted to talk about something that was important about our relationship. It never happened. Never happened.
But that's the emotional intelligence part you're talking about. See, the thing is that this is the thing. With anybody, we only know what's been put in to us. If ain't nobody worked on that with us, we ain't got it to distribute.
Right. And that's what I'm saying. We have to acknowledge that these things are coming from somewhere. And I mean, I'm going to take it back to the music. Mm-hmm. It's a grooming process. And that's, you Absolutely. Know, these men, they've been largely groomed to have this disposition in life where all they can do is, I'm just getting to the money. Mm-hmm. Don't have nothing other than that. Other than that, if it ain't got nothing to do with them chasing after a capitalistic image of success, they don't know. They don't.
Well, everything else is scrutinized.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, everything you do the only things black men are ever cheered on or encouraged in are the 2 spaces that we seem to dominate the best. I think I mentioned this to you before. The places we're cheered on the most that we also seem to dominate are the bedroom and the sports arena. Those are the places where black men are cheered on. We don't have to take nobody's directions. And we can do what we naturally feel is the right thing, and we win. That's the only spaces. You know, hip hop. You know, these are the spaces where black men are encouraged to do, and you can actually get a fucking reward. The problem becomes
minority.
Go ahead. Would you say it again?
I want to talk about the minority, which is the black man who is an educator. I know a lot of black men who are passionate about education. A lot of black people go into teaching. I know a lot of the master teachers that I've paid attention to have been men. The teachers in African spirituality, a lot of them are largely men and black. They're black men. A lot of black men are on a minority level, very into physical health. A lot of black men like to see their women healthy as far as their body is concerned. Like, for example, a lot of men, if you smoke cigarettes, they be like, "What are you doing?"
Right. Even if we smoke,
yeah, they be like, "What is
that?" Even if we smoke or we drink,
yeah,
we'll quickly be like, "Oh no, get your ass away." I'm real funny. Like me and my girl go through that all the time. She always be like, "But you sitting here doing," and I'm, "Girl, you don't back the fuck up."
Men, I've also noticed that a lot of men, on a personal level, what I can say, even though men don't do emotional intelligence, for the most part, what I do notice about a man's emotional status is that a lot of men are pursuant of peace. A lot of our men are pursuant of peace. These are very positive things, but it's happening on a smaller scale that you would never see if you weren't paying attention.
No one pays attention.
Yeah, it's like I notice that a lot of men just be like, "Will you please shut the fuck up?" Because I need my peace. Yeah. Those are very good things that can be built upon, but we have to be able to acknowledge our strengths and build from there. Because if you want peace, especially I have to tell brothers this, if you want peace with a woman, you got to give her the emotional component. You cannot leave her out emotionally and think that she's going to be peaceful. A woman's essence is emotions. Her essence is emotions. And if you neglect her and leave that element of her neglected where she has to wonder all the time emotionally, what is this? What am I doing with this man? How does he feel about me? Where are we going? Those things are deep in us that we need to know it. And if you leave us neglected and in the dark, you will not have peace because you're leaving us neglected, And so, I mean, we're not going to leave it alone. We're not going to leave it alone because it is literally what we survive off of, our emotional stability. And I think that's one thing that men have to understand, that y'all provide for us. Y'all provide emotional stability for us, whether you like it or not. It's a simple word from a man can calm a woman's storms. A simple word of affirmation, a simple word of reassurance. It can really, really put us in a place where we are like, okay, I'm good because my man has told me where he sits and where his position is. And we value that whether y'all know it or not. We value what y'all have to say. It's just a lot of times when men don't necessarily put any thought into what they're saying. They don't put no emotions into what they're saying. And it comes off to us as bullshit. And we can set that out from a mouth. And that's why a lot of times, like a man, he might say, I ain't talking to you like that because every time I say something, you get mad. That was one of the things my ex used to say to me. And I'm like, well, because you're not putting any, I felt like he was trying to communicate to me to silence me, to get me to be quiet. I'm like, no, I'm not receiving that. If you're just saying something off the wall, fly out the neck, out of your ass type of shit, I know how to sniff some bullshit. I want to know how you truly feel. A lot of times my ex would just regurgitate something that he heard me say. Like if I say, hey, we need to sit down and figure out why aren't we connected? It seems like, you need to do some soul searching or whatever. I would say that to him, and then I would say, well, what do you think needs to happen? What is going to make you more prepared for this emotional connection that we need to develop? And he would say, I don't know, I guess I got to do some soul searching. And I'd be like, no, you're not going to sit here and just fucking regurgitate what I just said to you. That doesn't work. You're just trying to shut me up. And that doesn't. So again, we have to start